Hey there, I'm Helper Wesley, and in this video, we'll be going in depth into the Sprite object. This is probably the most commonly used object in GDevelop, so it's important to understand. To create a Sprite object, we can click Add a New Object, and then go to New Object from Scratch, and then select Sprite. From here we can change the name, add an animation, but to learn more about animations and how to use them, check out the animations video. You can also add a behavior, give the object variables, and apply visual effects. But let's go back to properties. If you click on Add an Animation, you'll be given a whole bunch of options that are better explored in one of our existing sprites. You'll see that we have our animations with numbers and names, and we can edit the image with Piskel, change the speed that the animation is going at, and set it to loop or not. And we can press preview to see what that looks like. If I make the number larger,
it will slow down.
And if I make it smaller,
it'll be faster.
And now that we have animations, we can edit the collision masks. A collision mask is what the engine checks whenever you're using an event that checks for collisions, separates two objects, or checks for a point within an object. It's basically the shape of the object in-game. If we click here, you'll see that this object has a custom collision mask. By default, the collision masks will always be the size of the image itself, but then you can create a custom collision mask that better fits the object. And you can set up multiple collision masks, and you can add extra points by clicking Add a Vertex. But we'll get rid of that for now. And if you click up here, you can see the collision masks for each different animation and each different frame of that animation. When these toggles are checked, all of your animations and all of your frames will all have the exact same collision mask. But if you uncheck this top one and change the mask, you'll see that it's the same per frame, but if I go back to the idle animation, it'll be different. So unchecking this top one allows you to have a different collision mask for each animation. And then unchecking this bottom one will allow you to have a different collision mask for each frame of each animation. Now I suggest that you're very careful with this if you're doing it for the player object, because switching between different collision masks can cause your character to clip into objects that it's not supposed to. And I should point out that you can't have a collision mask that's concave, because the engine will return an error. And now if we go back, you want to make sure that you press apply to save your collision masks. And now the next biggest thing about a sprite object are points. Putting points on your sprite object allows you to call those points when you want to do something, like position the gun in this game, or spawn dust particles at a character's feet. By default, you'll have the origin and center point, and the origin point will by default be set to 0, 0, but you can move that as you need to for your game. You can click here to add a point, and just like collision masks, you can have different points for different animations and different frames of those animations. In this game, the collision mask of the character is being used along with the separate two objects action, which you can see being used in the top-down behavior video to keep the character away from the walls, and to check whether or not they've run into a bullet. But this has been a video about the Sprite object. As always, be sure to comment down below and tell us what kind of tutorial you would like to see next. I've been Helper Wesley, and I'm glad I could help.